Welcome to the Connect with BMC Helix ITSM webinar series. During today's webinar, you're able to ask questions of our panelists. The questions and answers, along with today's broadcast, will be published to our YouTube channel a week from today. Today's topic is ITSM June release, and I will turn it over to the product management team to take us through this content.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining this ITSM June-July release webinar. I'm Peter Adams, Director of Product Management for BMC Helix ITSM. And on behalf of the entire Helix ITSM product team, I'd like to welcome you to this webinar. Lots of exciting news to share about what's coming in this release cycle in support of our overall strategy around innovating ITSM. Let's have a quick look at the agenda here, very similar to what we had done in the past. First, I'll provide an overview of what is coming in the release and give some context about the priorities. And then we'll go in detail through all the new capabilities that are part of this release cycle. And for that section here, I'm joined by some of my colleagues who will do demos and explain a bit more about the different new capabilities. And we also spend a little bit to give you an update on the on-premises deployment, right? Wrapping up with some references to additional material. Overall, again, just as a reminder, please do submit questions in chat, in the chat function of the webinar. We'll have a number of folks here join, both from a product management perspective as well as a technical expert perspective, who are able to answer your questions here. So with that, let's get going. So 2021 is certainly a big year for our ITSM offering. While we continue to support our ITIL-driven traditional IT service management activity, in this year, we're introducing a number of new innovations that help us address the emerging needs of organizations as they are moving forward towards becoming an autonomous digital enterprise. And there are specific challenges that we plan to address and help customers with as they go to this transition here, as systems become So 2021 is certainly an important key transition year for our Helix ITSM solutions, as we are more and more focusing, helping organizations address the challenges as they move towards becoming an autonomous digital enterprise. The traditional IT service management practices that we have supported over years and continue to support are certainly no longer sufficient alone to address the emerging needs of such a digital enterprise here. For example, the manual rigid processes that most organizations had established around change control, for example, do not really support the needs around innovation and agility that most organizations want to achieve, and have led to the emergence of DevOps and Agile over the past few years, right? There need to be equivalent practices that complement these activities on the service management side, right? As systems become more complex, ever faster changing with ephemeral infrastructure, but also at the application architecture level, this notion of having individuals or groups that are experts on a specific application and are kind of the gatekeepers around analyzing what's going on is outdated, and more you need help from machine, or at least formalized processes around knowledge management to address situations when there are failures, etc. And we're looking at how to support this across service management and operations management. It's also clear with this rapid degree of change and with the increase in size of the environments that any manual repetitive work doesn't scale anymore. And so we continue to put a lot of focus on automation. And then last but not least, and this has been a trend that has been going on for a while, of course, the customer and employee experience is more important than ever. In short, it's really that we're focusing on emerging ITSM and ITOM practices in addition to the traditional IT service management, right? We want to enable organizations to test out these emerging practices in select areas and then adopt them over time, leading to better outcomes. And it includes, of course, again, a strong alignment with the IT operations space, and then also a big focus on using AI technology for improved automation. That's really BMC's vision on the future of IT service management. And as stated, this year, 2021, is certainly an important year for this transition, because we are really delivering an enormous amount of innovation in the 2102 and 2105 release cycles that we're talking about here, right? Innovation, not just in terms of new capabilities, but also to a large degree made available to our customer base without having to purchase any additional licenses, right? An example here is what you see on the slides. We have done quite a significant change around the underlying workflow engine, right? Moving from the traditional AR system-based approach to a converged innovation suite platform that includes both the AR system and innovation suite capabilities. We have moved towards a more flexible ITSM user experience that give you, our customers, the control over the user interface itself while preserving some of the value that we delivered with Smart IT, with a modern omni-channel experience. We're delivering new capabilities around DevOps and Agile success, making service management a key contributing factor in this DevOps and Agile success, and delivering capabilities that align with the principles of DevOps and Agile. And last but not least, we've introduced new AI service management capabilities in support of better ITSM outcomes, specifically around the similarity analysis or clustering of incidents in support of various use cases. So again, huge amount of innovation, and as I stated, to a large degree available without any extra licensing. Now, this level of innovation, of course, has led that 2021 is also a bit different from a release perspective. We certainly, acknowledge that the regular release cycles that we've done over the past 3 years have been changing a little bit. We had done our 2102 release cycle in February, focused mostly around new SaaS deployments. And that was really the first time we had introduced some of the innovation. And now in this June and July release cycle, we are making the next step around rolling these capabilities out. Initially, again, with a 2105 release that was focused on new SaaS deployments, but in a few days and weeks followed up with a release 2105.01 that will deliver these capabilities also for the first time on premises for new customers, as well as to some degree for upgrades customers. Now on the upgrade side, we certainly want to make sure that we are going to support our target customer base in doing these upgrades, and we'll share more about how exactly that will happen over time. But again, clearly the first step where we'll make these capabilities available on premises. And that release itself is then followed up by another release targeted for the fall timeframe, another full feature release that again targets both SaaS and on-premises. So again, acknowledging that the release cadence has changed a little bit, but again, for good reasons, because we deliver a huge amount of value, and that has led to a little bit of a change, with our focus on quality. We wanted to make sure all these significant changes and innovations are rolled out in a very clean and well-supported way. So let's get started with digging into the details around the release, looking at the various areas of the ITSM suite that we are improving. And I'll get started with the platform aspects. Now, again, just as a reminder, in 2102, we had introduced our new Converged Innovation Suite, which basically brings together the best of both AR System and Innovation Suite into a single platform, and allowing you, our customers, to run all the service management solutions, ITSM, digital workplace, business workflows, but as well custom apps and even partner apps to run on a single platform, which has huge advantages for you. Not just in terms of simplifying the deployment, everything can basically run on a single instance, but it's also easier to communicate between these different solution components. And then last but not least, it also allows us to offer certain capabilities that have been only available in SaaS so far, like business workflows or Innovation Studio capabilities, to make them available for the first time for on-premises deployment. So again, huge benefit, again, available to all of our ITSM customers as part of their standard ITSM licenses, which include, of course, the underlying platform that is now this Converged Innovation Suite. And part of that Innovation Suite capabilities that were added now include a full built low-code, no-code development environment where you can use a modern web-based UI to build out new extensions to the ITSM solutions, but also entirely new applications, right? And this environment includes a view builder, which is what you see here on the screen, a modern web-based view builder, but then also a graphical workflow editor that allows you to define these workflows, again, for custom apps. But this is, of course, as well used for our own solutions like Digital Workplace Catalog or business workflows to define task flows or request fulfillment processes. Last but not least, again, you cannot just use it for custom apps, but even interact with the ITSM solution, even though it was not natively built with these capabilities. You can use them to extend the ITSM solutions, triggering this kind of visually defined processes from ITSM workflow and basically trigger add-on activities as part of your ITSM logic here. Now, as part of 2105 release, we have continued building out our automation capabilities within this process engine. Automation, as we stated, is a very important goal for the solution. And we've done enhancements in two areas. Number one is there's predefined connectors that allow you to trigger integration flows in Jitterbit as part of our Helix iPaaS solution. But as well, we've built predefined connectors and in some cases enhanced existing ones around triggering automation activity in third-party solutions like Blue Prism, or certain automation flows in Microsoft Azure or Automation Anywhere, another RPA tool, again, where we had connectors before, but where we extended the solution to include webhook callbacks, right? So again, all in support of enabling you to further leverage automation for a more efficient ITSM processes, right? Now, the second big enhancement that we're delivering as part of this 2105 release cycle is a new full-text search engine that is based on Elasticsearch, which we expect to deliver enhancements around both performance as well as search relevancy. Again, here we are replacing the traditional Lucene-based FTS engine with a new modern technology that allows you to hand over activity that traditionally had run on the ITSM or remedy server itself over to the search service and then get the corresponding responses back, both improving on performance, but as well as search relevancy. So huge improvement. As we know, this has been a topic for many of our customers to deliver enhancements in these areas. Other enhancements on the platform side are at the CMDB level. Here we are introducing new capabilities for export and imports of reconciliation jobs as part of the new CMDB UI that helps, again, transition these reconciliation job definition between environments. It's now possible to define identification rules for CIs, leveraging multiple data sets, multiple different data sets, so that avoids creating duplicate CIs in the production or master data set. And then last but not least, we introduce certain user experience improvements, specifically when it comes to creating relationships in a service model where you don't have to specify the relationship type every time you create a relationship. It kind of recollects what relationship type you used before, and that is filled in by default, so that if you have a sequence of creating similar relationship types, that it's much easier and requires fewer clicks to establish them in the corresponding UI. So again, part of the CI Explorer here. Another platform-related enhancements are coming in our single sign-on solution. Here we're introducing local user authentication. Basically, if you use that, you now have the ability to lock down user accounts after a number of unsuccessful login attempts. Of course, if you had used SAML or connected to an external authentication source, that usually has been part of that functionality already. But again, now this is available also if you use local user authentication. We have improved our single logout function so that when you log out of a solution, it will basically log the user out of all of the solutions that are tied to Helix single sign-on. And then last but not least, we support long-lived sessions in a better way, and we added support for Polish languages, something that we had introduced in an earlier release for ITSM, but we couldn't deliver in the past release for the SSO UI. Now it's added as part of this 21.05 release cycle. Now, the last topic I wanted to touch on is the progress we're making around BMC Helix dashboard for ITSM, which is really our strategic direction around dashboarding and reporting, and we plan to share more about this direction very soon here. If you recall, this is a new module that's available to all BMC Helix customers as part of the solution licenses. Does not have to be separately licensed, and is a component that works across all of service and operations management products from the BMC Helix portfolio. So not just individual for one application, but works across different solutions, including on the service management side, ITSM, business workflows, chatbot, digital workplace. Data can be pulled out of all of these solutions, but again, also out of a number of IT operations management solutions, enabling you and us to build out dashboards that really span a number of different products and components in the portfolio, right? So very exciting new technology based on Grafana with super strong visualization capabilities. And we are in the process of building this new capability out. It was released for the first time in 2008, at the time for IT operations only. We started supporting service management in 2102, but now we're building out the capabilities to make this even stronger, including a number of new predefined dashboard and report templates around incident SLA performance, change, KCS, application availability, but also digital workplace and business workflows related metrics. Those are all predefined templates that we have added as part of this release, but we're also building out the functional capabilities of the solution here, and focus in 2105 was on allowing customers to schedule reports and dashboard creation and then distributing them through email as part of this 2105 release cycle. So again, it supports a number of specific capabilities around email. The export can happen to a PDF format. And this then, again, can be sent out as part of email to both users who are using the BMC Helix dashboard component, but even to users who are not registered for this component. So external users are covered as well. And of course, as part of this email, you can define a certain text as part of this email that is automatically sent out, right? Now, again, to have a look at this in more detail, I would like to ask Rahul Vedak to showcase a bit more about the solution in a quick live demo. Rahul, take it away.
Thanks, Peter. In BMC Helix Dashboards 2105 release, we had two focus areas. The one was adding more content, and we added some content for different solutions using Helix Dashboard. And the second has been adding functional capabilities to Helix Dashboard solution. So starting with the content part, we added 4 dashboard for ITSM in specific. So we have, in fact, I'm going to talk about those very quickly here. And then we'll switch to a new capability for scheduling. We have added a new one for change management, which really talks about the number of changes different groups are managing, how many changes we have resolved per month, a trend chart for those changes. Then some of the details about the changes are submitted by whom, and the coordinator group. Similarly, which product is getting those changes, and the product categorization. So that's a new change dashboard. Similarly, we added another dashboard for incident, but this time it's more on the SLA performance. For response SLAs, how much of those were met or missed by the priority of the ticket. And you can, the table on the right side gives you all the details. And then you have, all the ticket information. And this one is similar information, but for resolution type SLAs. And then we have a new dashboard for application availability. So for the business services, how was the availability in terms of the planned downtime, unplanned downtime, uptime, and the actual and the target availability for the business service. And not just that, incidents or the changes that negatively impacted the application availability. So those you can see in this 2 tables for incident and change respectively. And then we have a dashboard for KCS, knowledge-centered support. So it talks about how effective is knowledge management being used. So it talks about how many of those tickets are getting closed with some kind of relationship with the knowledge article related to or resolved by, and which teams or the support groups are effectively using this KCS methodology. And there are more KPIs around the reuse of articles and the participation and so on. So those were the 4 dashboards we added for ITSM. And then we had also added some content for digital workplace, mostly around the request, the top requested services, categories, sites. And then we have another dashboard for business workflow cases here. So that's the kind of content we added in 2105 release for ITSM and other products here. And in one of the recent webinar where we talked about what's new in 2102 release, we did a demo of how do you navigate BMC Helix dashboard, how do you create new dashboard, how do you create new panel, export to PDF, sharing a report, the panel definition or a dashboard definition between multiple deployments, etc. So if you're interested to learn about how do you use BMC Helix dashboard, you can watch a quick overview of dashboard from the past webinar. The other feature that we have added in 2105 release is a use case around report scheduling. So one of the common use case for reporting is how do you share some of the content over email to the different users. So that's where you'll see a new menu here called schedule report. And what you see is all the schedule which are for various dashboard here. So for example, here we have incident aging analysis that's running against incident dashboard. And I can see all of this, whatever is here. Let me start with creating a new schedule here. So I'll go about defining some of the details here. Then I have to select a specific dashboard. So let me just type it and I'll see the details. So I'll pick up incident dashboard here, and then I'll select all recipient who should receive this. So again, a type head comes here, and this can be also sent to external users. And then I'll go about typing subject. Here I can use some of the variables as well. So for example, it offers me variable for this report, kind of report metadata or the filter condition for this dashboard. So I will pick up the assign group saying that daily incident assignment for this support group. And then is the actual message. Again, we have a rich text editor available here and also those variable for report or the filter condition. Okay, so I added a couple of variables here, one for assign group name and then the start and end date and the company name here. And then is what date range it should use. This specific dashboard will show point in time data, but if you want to send data for, let's say, last 24 hours, you could very well define that here. And then some of the variable, right? So variable, it will pick up the default variable, but there is also another way to use current variables. I'll show that in few moments. And then the PDF format. So currently PDF is the format that we support for schedule dashboards. What we are looking at is supporting multiple formats in the upcoming releases. So I'll select landscape and then simple here. And then finally schedule how frequently this particular instance should go out. So I could say that send it monthly, weekly. I'll say that send it daily at 9 o'clock and then 17 hours. So twice a day. And I can also say that's for EMEA team. So send it in the Paris time. So let me go ahead and save this, and you can see that getting added here. So you can see that there is a new schedule added here running 9 and 5 p.m. every day. On this screen, there are a couple of additional options. So for example, I can pick one schedule and clone it, or if I want to run that dashboard and send it to those users right now, I can do that, or I can simply disable that schedule for whatever reason. Now this report also has some additional settings which are mostly around the branding. So for example, if you want to replace the default Helix dashboard logo, then you could provide that URL, and the system will use this, or you can change the footer, or there is a URL in the footer text that you can customize it for your organization. Also, I can use, instead of the default filter condition, a specific or the current filter condition. So if I navigate to my dashboard here, let me change this to a specific company, and now if I hit this this icon, this is in the same as the one we saw from the menu. In that case, it will actually offer me option to use the current filter condition. So let me skip this and navigate here for variable, and you can see that I can use the current variable, and you can see that this was the selection I had made. So that's another option you get if you start this scheduling right from that specific dashboard. So that was quick insight into 2105 Helix dashboard. And with that, I'll stop here and turn it over to Peter. Peter, back to you.
Thank you, Rahul. These are exciting new capabilities from my perspective, and I'd really like to encourage all attendees to look at the new BMC Helix dashboards capabilities as they're extremely powerful and will deliver a better reporting and dashboarding experience across the entire BMC Helix portfolio. With that, I'd like to move on to the next topic, and that's user experience. As you know, we've been working for a while transitioning our traditional smart IT approach towards a more flexible user interface technology, moving towards progressive web application as technology that allows us to design the screens so that they work on mobile devices as well, and then B, offering them on top of the platform so that you can use the standard capabilities to tweak and extend the screens. Those are really the two key goals here that we are addressing with the progressive web app UI that is currently part of the smart IT user interface. And we've made quite good progress here in that direction, supporting already a number of ticket screens, incident, work order, task, problem records, outages, broadcasts, a number of different screen types with this technology. But in the upcoming 2105 and 210501 release cycle, we're rolling out the new capabilities for change management, which is really a key part that has been missing in the support of progressive web app technology, specifically because change management tends to be an area where most of our customers have tailored the screens accordingly, right? So again, with this 2105 release cycle, we're introducing modern PWA-based technology for the change request screens. As with the other screens, again, these are designed to be mobile ready, although we are not yet fully there to support the entire smart IT UI on mobile devices. Using this technology, as of today, you'd still have to use the native mobile apps, but the screens are all designed to be mobile ready and will soon have a way then to bring the same UI up directly on mobile devices. And as before, the PWA option is still an opt-in, although we're moving towards making that our standard, right? So again, exciting new capabilities. As part of each of this transition, we tend to look at a number of things that we heard from our customers with the traditional smart IT UX design. And we're also taking into account that these screens need to be mobile ready. And from that perspective, in each of these transition projects, we're looking at what to further enhance in terms of the user interactions. And the same has happened here for change management. We looked at a number of areas and updated the UX flow, the user experience, and the coverage of certain capabilities as part of this transition from the traditional smart IT technology to the new one. Now, before I go into a lot more detail, explain what exactly that is, I think it's easiest if you have a look at the specifics in a live demo. And for that, I'd like to hand it over to John Stevens-Hall. John, take it over.
Thank you, Peter. The redesign to progressive web app for the change request part of the ITSM application has given us the opportunity to really follow up some customer feedback. The old wizard change logging interface in Smart IT is something we've had a lot of comments on, and we've been listening to those and have really taken the opportunity to redesign. So one thing we do have now over here on the left is these anchor tabs, which enable us to more easily navigate the form. We've also changed some of the important fields. So for example, templates now can be picked from a drop-down list, and we can filter that list by typing. There's also this search dialog that allows us to go into a little more detail, particularly if you have a number of templates. So hopefully that makes selection of templates a little more straightforward. As I progress through logging the change, you'll see that the whole thing is now on a single form. As I say, we can use those anchor tabs to navigate, or we can just scroll normally. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a change coordinator, which you notice I did from the single field search, or I can use these change manager fields on the drop down to select those. We also have the ability to add impacted areas as before, so this is a very similar input method to previously. We can add individual regions or use partial site and region information, or add departments and organizations. Another big area of change here is the configuration item search. Again, this is something that hasn't been particularly popular in the old Smart IT interface, so again we've refined it. So now we have this search dialog, which is very much in common with the other progressive web app record forms. So I can do a search based on a text keyword. I can use these fields, of course, to filter. So maybe I'll just want to filter by deployed items. And a nice trick with this here is that we can also use, we can create multiple relationship types in a single operation. So let's just let's sort this list a little bit into different categories, pick some of those CIs, and I'm going to select 2 different relationships types and a number of CIs, so I'll choose 3 of those. And when I click to relate those, I now get on the form 6 relationships created. So we have the, in each case we have the related to and the impacts variant as those are the relationship types I chose. Again, we can filter and sort that table. Date selection is using the same widget that other forms use, so we can select the date, default to midday, but also now I can come into this clock display if I want and select a specific time of day. So in this case, let's say 4:01 p.m. Okay, the risk section, it looks pretty much like the previous Smart IT risk section. This got some nice little tricks here, so I can select several risk categories and we see that level is calculated. If I make a change, I can then click to recalculate, so that gets updated right here on the form. I don't need to resave the record. And of course I can still, if I want to, override those questions and choose a risk level manually. Of course, one difference here is all these are AR system fields, so we can customize these things in Dev Studio if we want to. Yet another bit of the old Smart IT interface that we had a number of pieces of feedback on was the attachments. So this is a little more straightforward now, I think. We just basically select the document type, add a bit of description. I'm going to put this document on. This is quite a large document, so it's going to take a little while to upload. Hopefully that should start feeding across on the status bar there. But I don't actually have to wait. I can click to move off that dialog while it's still uploading, and it will still appear there on the form. And if I expand here in the table, I get the description that I saved. And then finally, I'm able to create a work note entry at the time of creation of the change. So that will just add something to the update feed. It enables us to actually create an initial work log entry if we're the person creating the change. And part of the reason for that is sometimes the creator does not have ongoing permissions to go and update the change, but they may need to do the work log entry. Finally, I noticed probably the template I chose hasn't sort of created a valid service, and I got the error message accordingly. So let's just pick a different business service, and I will go ahead and submit this change. And there we go. So hopefully this is a nicer dialogue, a nicer interface rather for creating changes. This is taking account of a large amount of customer feedback. Once we save the record, we see another one of the progressive web app views of this form, which is the view mode. And I can enter edit mode by clicking the pencil icon. So this is now single form edit, and everything we may want to edit is right here on this one view. So if, for example, I come into the risk level and click recalculate, it'll make that recalculation there on the form, and I can save that too. The task view here, we can add tasks from a similar looking dialog to the task dialog in the other progressive web app record types. So let's just pick a couple of tasks and add those. And they appear straight away here on the task tab. Okay, the configuration items view on the CIs tab is once again very consistent with create mode. So as before, I can search for CIs using keywords. I can filter them if I choose to, sort, and then select and add them as we saw before. We have a related items tab that I can use to relate incidents, again consistently with the other record types. Some other things that you see up here, we have this new view of the approvers, so I can see all the overall approvals for a change. Should I wish to, I can come in and add an additional approver manually here, so I'm going to add Mary there. And other things on the menu include the ability to see my own approvals. So we get a slightly more comprehensive view of the change approvals now. And then finally, we have this initiate impact analysis that enables us to to run an impact analysis. And in this case, I'm going to be able to now select and add an additional server CI based on that impact analysis. So as it says here, I need to refresh the relationships tab, and hopefully if I come to the CI relationship tab now, I should see that. I'm sure it'll be there in a moment. Okay, so that's a quick view of the new PWA change forms. There's some nice new functionality on there, but more importantly, the key thing is that we've updated the designs to reflect a lot of user feedback on that very important module. So thank you very much, and back to Peter.
Thanks, John. Exciting to see these new change management capabilities, but there's even more so. One more slide around the progressive web UI technology here. Because with each release, as we're building out new screens, we also tend to build out the underlying framework capabilities in support that we need in support of these new screens. And so as part of the 21.05 release, we're introducing also a number of new capabilities in the underlying framework that is part of the platform. And that framework can really be used by you for implementing similar modern user experience for custom AR applications, for custom extensions that you may have built, and even for areas that are part of ITSM but have not yet made it into the Smart IT UI. You could build a corresponding modern experience that looks like Smart IT. You could build that as well and integrate it with the corresponding Smart IT UI. Of course, we plan to eventually build out all of the ITSM capabilities as part of the Smart IT UI, but in case there's certain areas that are super urgent for you, at least now you have the flexibility to address them, right? Again, the underlying framework introduces a set of new capabilities around rich text fields, tooltips, multiple selection lists, surveys, and enhanced search for filters, all of which, again, can be used in general for building out modern user experiences on top of the AR system build solutions. Just wanted to make sure that you're aware of that layer as well. Now, a few more things to close out the user experience topic. Aside from the PWA transition on the core ITSM side, of course, we also look at continuing to build out our out-of-the-box capabilities in the UI, and for a number of releases, now we had focused a bit on the live chat capabilities. For those of you who don't know, this again is the agent user interface to support live chat-based support between customers and agents. This is integrated into Smart IT from an ITSM solution perspective, but as well into business workflows in case you want to use live chat from an HR support perspective. And as stated over the past few releases, we've built out these agent and supervisor capabilities in the Smart IT UI to deliver more a powerful set of capabilities. Now, specifically in 21.05, we're introducing the following new enhancements. Number one, it's possible now to associate these chat accelerators, as we call them, the quick text or URLs that allow an agent to very quickly put a respond in the chat, as they are, typically supporting multiple customers at the same time. They need to be super efficient, right? And so these accelerators can now be associated with a specific queue, so that an agent working, chats in the IT queue will only see the corresponding accelerators from an IT perspective, and correspondingly somebody working the HR queue will only see the accelerators from the HR side. Of course, this continues to be available for quick search of these accelerators, in case you know the specific name, but in case not, at least you would only see the corresponding domain-specific ones relevant to the agent. Then we further enhanced our notification capabilities. There are a number of them in the solution already today, but we added a few more as part of this 21.05 release cycles. For example, if a service desk agent leaves or closes the browser, then the customer is notified. So in case something happens on the agent side, the customer at least knows that the agent has left the chat or is no longer actively working in it. And then another notification capability that we added is that when an agent asks for help, the supervisor would be notified in the browser that agent again has asked for help. And then last but not least, we had supported using incident and work order templates, but as agents create tickets from the chat interaction, but it wasn't a very flexible approach. Basically, you could define one specific default template for each of the ticket types. And now at least we have the option that customers can implement their own logic, how templates are selected, and then can use them in a more dynamic way to create these incidents or work orders. It does require a bit of workflow definition, so to speak, but at least now it's possible for customers to control that to their own needs. Again, the out-of-the-box solution still has this one default template, but at least the solution now gives customers a chance to implement a more sophisticated workflow in that area. And then last but not least, this is an area that spans both Digital Workplace and ITSM. We had an issue in the past when the customer uses both Digital Workplace catalog and the SRM catalog, in that sometimes under certain situations, certain requests would show up as duplicate. Again, this only appears if you're using two catalogs, SRM and Digital Workplace catalog. But now, as part of this 21.05 release cycle, we have addressed this issue. And now, again, the solution basically will show this capability only once here. Now, moving on to the AI service management area. Again, this is a key important investment area for BMC, as we see a huge opportunity to help companies automate even more and provide more intelligent insights into the solution, thus leading to better decision-making around IT service management. For both of these goals, AI technology is uniquely positioned, and as we've shared in the past, our focus is not on building out core AI algorithms ourselves. We basically leverage best-in-class algorithms that are out there, whether it's commercial solutions or open source. And our focus is really on building out the use cases, making it easy to train the algorithms, etc., and seeing the corresponding outcome for the users. This is really our focus here. Now, just to recollect what we've released in the 21.02 timeframe, we've introduced here a completely new AI capability as part of our ITSM solution that is leveraging NLP and clustering algorithms to detect similarity between incidents, even if they have been registered with different summary, different description. these AI algorithms can understand how similar these incidents are, and they can basically group the same type of incident, even if slightly, again, differently registered. They can group them into clusters and visualize them, as you can see on the screen. And we're using that for two main use cases in our solution here. One is what we call proactive problem management, where it's about looking at a large amount of incidents over the course of time, let's say 3 months, and understanding patterns, which incidents are similar, and most importantly, which of these clusters are the biggest, not just in terms of numbers of incidents, but also in terms of time spent, because problem management is a costly process. You can typically only pick a few problem investigations per cycle, and it's extremely important to optimize the work here by picking the clusters that contain the biggest amount of work, or vice versa, savings, potential savings. So it's important to understand not just, again, how many incidents are of the same type, but also how much time is spent on them, and that will help organizations identify the key clusters that should be addressed as part of a problem investigation, right? The flip side, on the real-time incident correlation side, the goal is a bit different. Here it's more about the new incoming incidents that come into the service desk. You're also trying to understand similarity, because you want to understand, are these incidents about the same topic or the same situation, so to speak. But again, it's done on the fly in real time. And here it's not so much about identifying the biggest amount of work, but detecting new emerging impactful situations as early as possible, so that you can take the corresponding corrective steps here, and that overall reduces the amount of outages or the duration of an outage if you can detect these situations early on. So again, both use similar technology, but with two different goals, and again, exciting new capabilities as part of the release here. Now, in 2105, we are further refining these capabilities. As part of the release, we are enabling users to control how many clusters are shown on the screen, and that has a positive impact on overall usability as well as performance. The user can really say, hey, if I only have time to analyze the 10 biggest ones, I may as well just show 10 or 15 clusters on the screen. I don't need to show 50 if I anyway focus only on the top ones. So the user has more control over the number of clusters that are shown on the screen. And as well, once you drill down into the cluster specifically, we now show more information about existing relationships between incidents and problem investigation. So if one of the incidents in the cluster already has a relationship to corresponding problem investigation, of course, as a user, you want to know, because that may influence the path that you go down in terms of creating a new problem investigation. Similarly, on the real-time incident clustering side, again, we also enhance the drill down capabilities. If an incident that is part of such a cluster is already apparent or a duplicate, then this is more visible now in the drill down view, so that you can take corresponding actions more easily as part of the drill down capabilities, right? If it's already a parent, you may not need to relate it to another parent, etc. Right? So you have more transparency into the existing situation, and you can take then the right bulk actions from here to create additional relationships, right? Now, to have a very quick look at that, how that looks like, I want to hand it over to Harshad. Harshad, take it away.
Thanks, Peter. On the AI service management, we have some new features on both the AI use cases around proactive problem management and real-time incident correlation. So now you can view the clusters of recurring incidents on the proactive problem management by a new dimension in the size by field, which is total efforts, and this helps in identifying those clusters where there is a relative high effort spent in resolving the associated incidents. We have also added a feature to limit the clusters in the heat map view to 50 with a default of 25. Also, users can select any number of clusters between 5 and 50 with a step size of 5. The default size of 25 is again configurable, and users can also view an information bar that displays the selected number of clusters against the total number of clusters. And if users want to view all the clusters, they can view them in the list view tab. Also, we now have support in proactive problem management for users to relate incidents to an existing problem and create this additional relationship between incidents and problem investigations through either the kebab menu on dashboard view and also through the detailed incident view, which appears when you click on the cluster. Now, in terms of what's new in real-time incident correlation, in the detailed incident view, we've added a feature where users can view relationships between incidents. So depending on whether the incident is a parent or a duplicate, the relationship column will display either show duplicates or show parent. And of course, this is dependent on users tagging an incident as original in Smart IT, which then becomes the parent incident. Clicking on Show Duplicates opens a modal window where users can view all the duplicates that are associated with an incident. Also, if an user clicks on Show Parent, it takes the user back to Smart IT where the original incident is displayed on the ticket console. And finally, we have added an icon to the right of the incident number to indicate whether the incident is a recommended parent or a parent. The parent icon is the one shown here in blue. Recommended parent is the first logged in incident in the cluster. Back to you, Peter.
Thank you, Harshad. Now let's move on to the next topic, and that's new capabilities that we deliver in support of better DevOps and Agile success. As stated in the beginning, we see IT service management playing a key role in the support of Agile and DevOps initiatives, specifically for large enterprises. And BMC has been delivering new capabilities around DevOps integrations, collaboration, Agile service management over the course of the last 1 or 2 years. Again, supporting that goal and helping making customers DevOps and Agile initiatives more successful. And in this upcoming 2105 release cycle, there's a number of new capabilities that we are rolling out, mostly centered around the integration aspect. So I wanted to start out with BMC Helix Multi-Cloud Broker. This is, of course, the solution that delivers end-to-end integration use cases in various areas. DevOps is an important part of it, but it's not the only one. You can see there's a number of other integration use cases around ticket brokering, security incident management, ticket consolidation, cloud monitoring that are also covered as part of BMC Helix Multi-Cloud Broker. And again, think of it as an end-to-end solution for certain integration use cases, whereas the underlying iPaaS solution is really the plumbing, the underlying platform, integration platform that enables these use cases. But again, Multi-Cloud Broker ultimately delivers a number of things on top of it to make it an end-to-end solution, whether it's proper UI integration, whether it's dashboards to see the integration flow and monitor it, whether it's reporting and a number of other things. There's a number of capabilities that BMC Helix Multi-Cloud Broker delivers on top of the underlying integration platform, right? So with the upcoming consolidated platform being supported on premises, now we can also support the corresponding BMC Helix Multi-Cloud Broker capabilities that are built on Innovation Suite also on premises, something again that is going to be rolled out for the first time as part of the upcoming capabilities on premises. That's one enhancement, but more importantly, we now also plan to roll out a new integration option or a new option for the underlying integration plumbing or integration platform. And that's support of MuleSoft. As you recall, BMC Helix iPaaS so far had focused on Jitterbit as a solution, but Jitterbit is a SaaS only solution, and some customers just needed to have a corresponding on-premises solution for integrations, and some customers also just preferred MuleSoft as one of their leading integration platforms that they had already established in the enterprise. From that perspective, we decided to support now MuleSoft also as an option for the underlying integration platform, being available again on premises and SaaS, and now allowing to build corresponding integration flows for Helix ITSM on top of that MuleSoft platform. Again, exciting new option. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we are no longer working with Jitterbit. We continue to support it. We continue to build out the capabilities that we have with our BMC Helix iPaaS solution powered by Jitterbit, right? In fact, we are rolling out a number of new connectors, and we generally do that as part of our content program, right, on a regular basis. You can see here some of the new connectors that we are rolling out around App Dynamics, Xmatters, Dynatrace, Micro Focus, ALM, or also, of course, connectors to the parts of the BMC product portfolio here with TrueSight Operations Management. But then also are predefining integration flows that cover certain common use cases. In this case, for example, publishing incident information into a Teams channel, or then also publishing regular work notes that are put on the incident, correspondingly publishing them on the MS Teams channel as well. Now, that capability here is new for MS Teams, but we had a similar capability for Slack already before, and I just wanted to showcase how that works based on some recording here. So as you can see, when you look at an incident and the user is adding a public note, then this is added basically to the corresponding Slack channel in this case. You can see here the same work node is added to the corresponding Slack channel that was just added to the incident, right? So again, just to highlight in general how this looks like, and then a very quick recording on how the integration with the MuleSoft works here. Again, once you have MuleSoft established in your environment, you can upload corresponding integration flows and corresponding connectors here to the environment. Again, this is done with the standard MuleSoft capabilities here. You have to, again, correspondingly configure the environment. And then the flows, of course, are then shown in a standard graphical view once you loaded them up. Again, you can use the standard Slack capabilities to review these predefined flows here that, in this case, again, publishes a corresponding incident work node into Slack, and you see the corresponding transformations here as well as part of the standard MuleSoft environment, right? Okay, As mentioned earlier, when we talked about the release timeline, I wanted to share a bit more about the plans around container deployment. We had shared a little bit of this before over the course of the past few months, and just to repeat here, containerization, we see huge benefit for you, our customers, in container-based deployments in terms of the ease of deployment, ease of upgrade, ease of patching. In terms of monitoring, it's really become a standard for many enterprises how they deploy custom solutions, but more and more enterprise software vendors are also moving to container-based technology because it has tremendous benefits from an automation perspective, and it really allows you to establish highly automated process again around deployments, upgrade and patching and scaling. From that perspective, this is the way forward for BMC from a technology perspective and on-prem deployments. Just to repeat very quickly again that container-based deployment, of course, focuses largely on the server side components that are containerized. The client-related tools continue to be downloaded and installed through the standard mechanisms that you're used to. So download from EPD and install with standard mechanisms really affects mostly the server-based components. And the great thing is here that by and large, this container-based deployment does not affect your solution here from an ER system perspective, ITSM perspective, APIs, etc. The vast majority of items are the same. Any customization that you've built should continue to work. The key difference here is really mostly around the file-based interactions. Those are changing in a container world, and thus any file-based integrations, also to some degree logging is changing, and to some degree some of the API plugin work is changing a little bit, and as well the underlying OS for the container. So, but again, by and large, from a solution perspective, your investment that you've done previously in the ITSM solution is certainly retained here. Now, I wanted to share again the latest information on how the deployments work here. And again, that applies to our upcoming 2105.01 release that again will be available in a few days or weeks. This again describes the fresh install approach here. It starts that BMC makes the software available through EPD and what we call the Docker Trusted Repository. Those are the two components that are relevant. It starts out with the deployment of the infrastructure and the Kubernetes clusters and the environment here. Also, you need to have, of course, a database server here. In many cases, you have that already. The second step is really to create the deployment engine and the Harbor repository. And then from there, you're downloading really the access key, the pipelines, the tooling, so to speak, from EPD to establish the process, let's say it that way. The software itself ultimately comes from the Docker Trusted Repository, the containers. Those are then synchronized to the local Harbor repository. And that's, again, a mechanism that is part of the install. And then from there, the deployment starts on the different parts of the cluster, the Kubernetes cluster infrastructure here. And of course, the databases are also deployed. So that's really the flow from a fresh install perspective, just to repeat that. Now, from an upgrade perspective, it's clear that with the consolidation of different solutions onto a single Converged Innovation Suite server, and with the container-based infrastructure, it is not the same type of in-place upgrade process that we've supported over the past few years here, right? Again, both the infrastructure, but as well the the server convergence have led us to support this move from an earlier version to a newer version, to the latest version, through what we call a stage upgrade. So you're basically standing up, again, a separate environment, very similar to what you did in the new deployment here. And very similar, in deployment of the deployment engine, the Harbor repository download, access key and pipelines from EPD, so that you can then synchronize the containers from the Docker trusted repository onto the Harbor repository, and then from there on, it's the deployment that happens onto the different parts of the Kubernetes clusters, right? And again, that's fully automated. Now, again, as you have an existing solution in the staged upgrade scenario, you need to, of course, migrate customizations over. Basically, the customizations, the overlay you've done from an ITSM perspective. We deliver tooling that helps with migrating the corresponding data from ITSM, Digital Workplace, and other elements onto that single environment, right? Again, before this data was distributed in various systems, right? Here we are migrating this onto a single instance. And then that basically allows you, after an initial transfer of the data, to then synchronize the staged environment that you've set up this way with the current production environment on a regular basis through a concept similar to the Delta data migration that we used to support in the past. But again, this time it happens through the Helix Data Manager module here. So the staged environment is regularly kept updated through this Delta data migration. And then there's a final cutover at the end when you switch from your current production environment to the new production environment, right? That again is the process that we support in 21.05.01. I do also want to call out that this direct upgrade specifically works for version 20.02 to the latest version here. So there is some restrictions around the starting points, although many customers are on this 20.02 version. And then we do plan to collaborate with those customers making that move in context of that 21.05.01 release, either directly or through partners. We want to make sure that those customers making the move to 21.05.01 have a good experience, and that's why we plan to do a controlled distribution approach where we can collaborate again, either directly or through partners with these early adopter customers. What is followed then, as I mentioned before, is a September-October release timeline. Now for that, we do plan to extend this upgrade path to older versions. We're even looking as far back as 7.x. Again, the HDM tooling allows us to do that. And we're also looking at optimizing some of this upgrade path. It will very likely stay, again, a staged upgrade to some degree in that you have a new environment, so to speak, because you're really consolidating from multiple different products onto a single one. But again, the upgrade process itself will see some additional improvement, right? So that's important to note. Again, those who want to see an easy experience should likely look at this September-October release timeline as the right approach, right? And then just to finish it, a recap of the different technical parameters, so to speak, what we support from a container orchestration software layer, Kubernetes and OpenShift, down to the database. Again, that's to some degree what we had shared before, but wanted to make sure that we bring this up again so that you can see what technology we are supporting as part of this upcoming cycle. Again, here also we're looking at making some extensions as part of this upcoming September-October release timeframe. Okay, we're getting towards the end of the webinar, and it gives me an opportunity to summarize all the things that we have heard during the course of the webinar. As stated, 2021 is certainly a big transformative year for our BMC Helix ITSM solution. We're delivering significant major innovation, both for the underlying service management platform as well as the ITSM applications themselves, as stated to a large degree, without requiring any additional licensing needs. And that delivers a huge value to our customer base in support of our key goals that we have, right? We want to help you gain the benefits from emerging ITSM practices, as stated, as the technology world changes, as companies' processes change around Agile and DevOps, and as organizations try to bring out innovation in an ever faster way. It's clear that the traditional practices in the ITSM side don't work anymore. And we want to help you establish and try out new emerging practices. And that's really a key goal of what we're doing as part of our ITSM portfolio here, right? Now, a big part of that leverages AI technology. We're really seeing that as a huge opportunity to automate more tasks that previously were done manually by humans. And from that perspective, again, huge opportunity to make the organizations more effective, but also induce more agility, right? Because once you automate something, you can generally move faster. But it's not just about automation, it also is about giving better insights and enabling you then to make better decisions, right? And then the third goal here is helping you to align service and operations management better, and basically gaining the optimal outcome from this combination, right? As more and more information from one side is used by the other, whether it's about leveraging change information to understand the probable cause of an outage, whether it's about leveraging events and alerts on the operation side to make better prediction in the ITSM area. We see these solution areas grow closer and closer together, and it's really our goal to help you align these practices closer together to get an optimal outcome, right? Again, all of that in a new deployment option that in a few days and weeks will be available for on-premises deployment as well. Again, with that, I'd like to hand it back for some final comments.
Thank you. And now I'll take us through the self-help in contacting BMC. The YouTube channel where this webinar will be posted is listed here. It contains past webinars as well as a rich set of how-to videos. The Connect with BMC Helix ITSM and Remedy webinar schedule is available at this community's link. And the hot off the press newsletter for trending information is available at this community's post. As always, contacting technical support via web, phone, email, and these social channels is available. At this time, that will conclude this webinar. Thank you for attending.